Now, to discuss this and much more, I have with me the CEO of Afri Invest Securities, Ayodeji Ebo, who joins me now live from via Skype. Good to have you join us, Ayo. Now, let's start at first exploring opportunities provided by the capital market for sourcing infrastructure financing. Well, it's not necessarily a new practice when you look at advanced climes, but not much is practiced here in Nigeria. What's the issue and what's hindering the exploration of this avenue?
Yes, thank you. You've asked a very valid question as to why the Nigerian capital market is not providing funding for projects. But I think the first thing we need to first establish is, are those projects bankable? Because most times when you look at projects, you are borrowing funds on the back of the cash flow that you expect from those projects. So for most of the projects, the government needs to come up with policies or avenues where most of those projects are bankable. For instance, if we want to look at in terms of for road projects, how many of these roads are government concession? What we've been seeing is that government have been trying to take on this burden alone. And if you check in terms of contribution of the government to GDP, it's less than 10%. Even if we double the budget, we still can't provide the necessary capital to fund the infrastructure gap. So the project needs to be carved out. Road projects, if they carve them out and they are able to concession them and they come up with policies that would also ring-fence the cash flow from that particular project, the infrastructure, then it will be easier for the developers or the sponsors of those projects to access capital through the capital market. And you would look at this, it provides a lot of opportunity. You have the pension fund, which is in trillions, and there are limited options for them. Currently, you don't have project bonds, you don't have infrastructure bonds that are specific, tailored toward the project. Yes, government in the last few years, we've seen government come up with ideas like the Sukuk bond that were tied to particular projects, road projects. We've also seen situation where government was trying to say how they want to raise infrastructure funds.
Well noted, Ayo. Let me quickly just button here now. Talking about developing risk mitigating structures to improve debt securities, especially talking about developing all of these projects. Now, we understand the need to have debt service test of the market acceptance to know which projects have risks and to what extent. But now, what structures do you expect to be put in place for us to be able to have much more inclusion, much more participation, much more investment within the capital market, and then we can have proper financing of our projects?
I think the best one, the first one that comes to mind and easier to deal with is the public-private partnership. So they need to, for most of the road infrastructures, they need to be concession such that you are expected to get cash flow from this project over a certain period. So based on that, the sponsors of this project can come to the capital market and raise long-term funds, because what you can easily get from the capital market is getting long-term financing relative to the short-term funding that that banks provide. So if you are able to come up with policies around the private public partnership, then the projects would be bankable. It would attract funds as much as possible. You looked at some of them are also what can also assist. Looking at, for instance, the power sector, which also has to do with infrastructure. You look at the power sector, for instance, if the policy is not right, there's no amount of capital or that sector can attract for now because of the current tariff system. So
Ayo, we are about to wrap up conversations, but what are your projections for 2020 investment in the capital market? Talking about financial inclusion, we don't have a lot of active participation locally here in Nigeria.
Yes, I think we've seen some initiatives, some private firms trying to come up with infrastructure funds, but we feel that we would see more firms trying to identify projects that have consistent cash flow and have been de-risked. De-risked in terms of you ensure that you get the necessary papers signed in terms of concessioning. So if we expect that some firms will come up with those initiative infrastructure funds to fund small to medium type projects. But when we are talking about what can jumpstart our economy, we need those major projects that government can't fund this project alone. And the capital market is the only avenue that would be able to provide long-term capital,
Most
not
definitely.
short-term funds from the banks to fund this project. So government needs to focus and come up with those policies that will give comfort to the sponsors, and that would also, the sponsors will be able to come to the market to raise capital in form of project bonds. It can be project bonds, it can be infrastructure bonds. You know, we have infra-credit that also provide enhancements.
Exactly,
that give comfort,
exactly.
to some of those projects. So they would have looked at the risks within those projects and provide some form of comfort, such that in terms of even the pricing, so it's also on a considerable note.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Ayodeji Ebo, who joins us via Skype. He's the CEO of Afri Invest Securities.